Get my 6. Tanaka! Today we're trying out a new invention for our potential Bigfoot Sasquatch researching techniques. This is a twofold project here. Let's try it first before we head up here into the Bigfoot Sasquatch forest where we are heading. But let's let them know we're on the way. Here I have a tree. And here I have my Tunaka. Wait a minute, I did that wrong. Here I have my Tunaka tree knocking stick for potential Bigfoot Sasquatch. Since there are 3 syllables in the word Tunaka, we will hit the tree 3 times. Tunaka. Now let's proceed henceforth. So here's what's going on. And I've got a story for you too, because a lot of people ask, what would I do if one of these things, not Crazy Lake, that's me, but one of these things actually responded to the tree knocking, potential Bigfoot Sasquatch tree knocking stick? Well, no one's ever really asked that question, because this is the first video that has featured a Man, I should have warmed up before this. Okay, I'm going to save that for another time. This is the first video that has featured the Tunaka potential Bigfoot Sasquatch tree knocking stick. But people have said, what would this joker actually do if one of these potential Bigfoot Sasquatch creatures actually came at him? What would he do? Well, I have the answer for you. And you've seen it in some of my videos where something or someone may or may not have come at me. Well, I ran like hell, brah. You think I'm training and to be in good shape just to be like the fastest person over 50 in Central Virginia? I'm not even 50 yet, brah. Hold on. Here's the woods. Ignore what sounds like a lawnmower in the background. It's probably just a lawnmower in the background. You know, a lot of times, him, her, it, or they. Wow, see, that lawnmower's not scaring anybody. Look at this deer right here. See that right there? That's a deer. Hi, deer. Just like right there behind our tent up here at the campground. So see, there's another deer. Okay, so we definitely got deer in the forest. So if the deer aren't afraid of a lawnmower, next property over, him, her, it, or they probably won't be either. So let's go test. You know, a lot of times they'll use background noise like that to sneak up on you because you can't hear them because you're hearing a lawnmower. Like these deer, they're like right there. See those deer right there? Maybe they couldn't hear me because of the lawnmower, but now that we're in the woods, let's try it again. See how the deer react. See what the deer think of Tunaka! Still didn't work. Okay, three taps, right? All right, they didn't run. So here's what I would do. I got a story for you about outrunning Bigfoot Sasquatch, okay? Okay, I just saw something that's not a deer. Let me zoom in. All right, those are deer. What's this over here? By the way, for those of you that saw the video the other night of the crazy weird thing jumping out of this tree over into this one, that tree's still bent down. Man, it did a number on that tree. That's just deer right there. Yeah, flopping their tails. A lot of people think the deer wouldn't be in here right now if him, her, it, or they were around. Well, that deer's just eating away up there. There she is. I'm zoomed in, so it's harder to see, but I can see the leaves she's chewing. So maybe we're safe for now, but maybe we can use the Tunaka, potential Bigfoot Sasquatch tree knock stick, to make us unsafe. Tunaka! All right. Yeah, I moved a little bit. Keep your eyes on that. That's why I came to this spot. The deer is still, they're still back there. All right, so I would run like hell if a potential Bigfoot Sasquatch started chasing me, and I do believe I could outrun one because I'm fit and I've been training for more than a year now. I've lost 35 pounds total. And I believe there's no such thing as too much leg speed. And now I've got a story I'm going to tell you about that. And it's a story that I had forgotten until a couple weeks ago. My wife put a video on her channel, Life with Dearly. There we go. I just had to be sitting down. I can't walk and chew gum at the same time. What would make me think I could walk and do at the same time? By the way, here's that big oak limb that was broken out of this tree when that thing jumped the other night. So, my wife made this video. We had gone to the track about 2 weeks ago. I was doing a speed workout to get ready for an upcoming race. I was sprinting, well, intervals, 400 meter sprints and then 200 meter sprints. And somebody commented on her video, and I have every reason to believe I know who this person was. Let's just say former hurdler, okay? I was on my track team. Left a comment in college track team, left a comment, said, you got too much leg speed. And so Dearly read that and she goes, what's this mean? Too much leg speed. You have too much leg speed. And I started laughing because I hadn't heard that in 25 years. And I said, who said that? And she read me the name and I knew it was this hurdler that was on my track team in college. Well, I've got to tell you the story about the guy that just had too much leg speed, okay? He was on our team. I'm going to call him Bernie. It's not his real name. I don't know where this guy is and what he's doing, but I don't want to give him an opportunity to file a frivolous lawsuit for slander or libel. And you'll understand by the time I get to the end of this video why. So we're going to call him Bernie for purposes of this video. Story's true, the name's not. So Bernie, he was a good runner in high school. He was a 4:24 miler, and he ran the half mile in 2:02, and he did go under 10 minutes for the 2 mile. I think he ran like a 9:58, barely under, but he was really a really good miler. But he would blow up at the big meets, like when the important races come. He'd get in his head. And he'd psych himself out, and he'd lose the big races. Now, he could beat anybody. He could beat the best runners in the state at a little dual meet where it didn't matter, but state championships or something like that, he'd just blow up, wouldn't even place. Well, in college, and he's a few years older than me, he was a 5,000 meter guy, 3.1 miles, 12 and a half laps. But towards his later years in college, he became unmotivated. Okay, he was a big guy. This is important to point out too. Like right now, I'm like 5'9", believe it or not, 158. I was 193 pounds a little more than a year ago. I'm down to 158 now. 5'9", 158, and I'm still much bigger than I was when I ran track in college. I was probably 140, 142 to 146 back then. I'm not going to get down to that weight. I just don't think that would be healthy for me now. But back then, I was young. I didn't have an ounce of fat on me. I actually ate less than 10 grams of fat a day to make sure I didn't have an ounce of fat on me, and I ran 70 miles a week. A lot of times ran twice a day. You have to get that kind of mileage, because that's an average of 10 miles a day, but you actually take a day off, and then so you have to have the long run of like 17 miles or whatever. So Bernie, towards the end of his career, he just became unmotivated. Big guy. He was 6'1", and now in high school he was like 6'1" and 160 pounds. I mean, he had this long fluid stride. You had to take 1.5 strides for one of his. He was just hard to keep up with. But he started putting on weight in his latter years there, and he ballooned up to like he would get up to over 200 pounds in the off season, which is huge for a runner, especially a distance runner. Well, I mean, this is just the truth. This is how it would go. We'd say, hey, in the off season, like during the winter, it was in between cross country and track season. All right, the deer seem to have moved out, so let's keep our eyes open for others. Did you see that? And we're getting close to where I saw something back there. That's deer. Those are deer. So let's get a different angle. I'm gonna give a few knocks here. We're supposed to be, we're testing out this brand new Bigfoot Sasquatch tree. See, I got the handle cut into this one. And yes, of course, this is available on our Etsy store. The link is in the description box below. That's hard to knock with your left hand when you're right-handed. All right, so it'd be like, hey, Bernie, let's do a long run together on Sunday. Let's just go out and run for 90 minutes, hour and a half. He'd be like, okay, man, come over to the house about noon. I'll be like, okay, because he lived off campus. I lived off campus. So I'd go there at like noon, and he would be laying on the couch in his boxers, eating something that is not something runners should eat, watching a football game, pregame or whatever, football Sunday, all day football. I'm like, come on, man, let's go running. He's like, man, it looks cold out. How cold is it? I'm like, I don't know. It's like 30, because this was Appalachian. Winters there are a lot colder than winters here in Virginia. So like, let's let it warm up for a little bit. Sit down, let's watch the first quarter of this game. I'm like, okay. Sitting there, he's shoving pizza and chocolate chip cookies and double stuffed Oreos in his mouth. Like, Bernie, coach isn't going to let you run the long stuff this year. You're just putting on all this weight. He's going to make you run a half mile. Because, man, listen, for every pound you gain, you run a mile 2 seconds slower. Dude would put on 20 pounds in the off season. That's 40 seconds, and that's per mile. Now put that into a 5,000 meter race, 3.1 miles. That's like 2.5 minutes. Something like that, 2:20. That's a lap and a half. So, his belly hurt. Let's wait till after halftime. My belly hurts. Well, of course your belly hurts. You just ate half a pizza, half a pack of Chips Ahoy chocolate chip cookies, and the 4 double stuffed Oreo cookies you found there that your roommate left there last night. Of course your stomach hurts. It's like, well, my stomach will stop hurting after halftime. Then we'll go out and run, Halftime's over. He goes, well, let's watch it. He said, just grab a beer, drink a beer. I was in college. I didn't say no. I was like, okay. Next thing you know, we don't go out and do the run. He's eating more pizza and chocolate chip cookies and double stuffed Oreos, and I'm drinking like 10, what was it? What were those things? Old Milwaukee. We used to call them Old Mill Yucky. I don't even know if they make that stuff anymore. That was our generation's version of Natty Light. That Natty Light, that cheap water type. It's like water with a little bit of alcohol in it. It's what the broke college kids buy these days in this generation. Well, a generation ago, it was Old Mill Yucky, Old Milwaukee. So eventually I stopped going over there to try to get him to do the long runs with me on Sunday. I just did them on myself, or did it by myself, or I would do it with one of the other distance runners, because this guy, he should have just gone ahead and retired early, but he wanted to get his last year in. So season comes around, And coach tells him, he goes, Bernie, you're fat. You're not, and this is back, again, I'm Generation X. You could say that back then and people wouldn't get offended because you were just kind of stating a fact. I guess that would be triggering. You couldn't tell a college athlete who had put on too much weight in the off season now that they're fat. You would have to tell them that they were gravitationally challenged, I guess. Gravity is going to have a much stronger pull on you now. You're gravitationally challenged. Back then, your coach was like, you fat ass. Why'd you gain so much weight in the off season? He told him, you're running a half mile. Well, Bernie was like, Coach, I can't run the half mile. He says, you're too big to be a 5,000 meter runner. He says, you are one of the most gifted runners I've ever seen as far as just natural leg speed goes. This guy had a lot of sprinters have a lot of what's called fast twitch muscle fibers. The longer the distance you run, like go all the way out to marathon runners, they have more slow twitch muscle fibers, which they're not as powerful, but they have a lot more endurance. This guy had the perfect mix, man. He really, I swear, I think he could have been a sub 4 minute miler if he would have applied himself. But he didn't. He had a lazy streak in him. He was good at making excuses. Kind of reminds me of a guy I know that lives out this way. So anyway, coach threw him in a half mile. Well, he was bummed. He was just crushed. He's like, I can't believe coach making me run a half mile. That's a sprint, which it is. It's like 2 laps. And that sounds long if you're not a runner or if you're not fit and you don't work out. It's like, oh my God, how's that a sprint? Trust me, when you're a runner, that's a sprint. You got to sprint those 2 laps. A decent time at our level was like 1 minute and 50 seconds, 1 minute and 52 seconds at our level. Bernie's best time was 2:02, and our coach knew that if he could go under 2 minutes, he could place at our regional conference championship and score some points so we could win the conference championship. And we always won every year, even though we were a poor school. We beat a bunch of these private rich kid schools. So, I told Bernie, I said, look, let's focus on this. You've never gone under 2:02. I'd never gone under 2:02. My best time was 2:04. No, I never focused on that event. I focused on the mile and the 2 mile and then the 5,000 in college. But I said, just think, this is your last year. You might still run competitively after this at the longer distances, like 5Ks, 10Ks. You might do road races, but you're never going to race the half mile again. Old people don't do that. Back then, if you're out of college, you're old, right? Kind of like still today. She's like, okay. So he got motivated to do the 800 meters, a half mile. And we would do speed workouts with him, the other middle distance guys and the distance guys. And he was dropping some weight and he was getting in shape. Then the meet started. And the strategy was always this. Look, go through that first lap in 60 seconds and then just let everything you got left in the tank out of the tank in that last lap. The goal being, of course, to be able to hang on and run the second lap in 60 seconds too. This is hard to do. And actually, you'd want to get on your toes there with 50 meters to go and sprint to knock that other second off so you can go under 2 minutes, right? This is difficult, not because the pace is so fast. It takes a lot of discipline. Because if you're in shape to do that, if you're fit enough to do it, you can do it as long as you don't blow it in the first lap. See, the problem is you get your adrenaline up, you get your excitement up, that gun goes off, and you just take off. And then next thing you know, you go through that first lap in 55 seconds. You get around that next turn, you're going to die. And that's going to be the longest 300 meters of your life. It's terrible. And then you end up running the second lap in like 1 minute and 10 seconds. And then you end up running like 2 minutes and 15 second half mile, which is okay for high school. That wouldn't even get you into a state meet in high school in a small state. And it's terrible for college. But if you go under 2 minutes, that 15 seconds it's a world of difference. Okay. They're worlds away. So first meet of the season, Bernie comes out. We're all cheering for him. Come on, Bernie, just do 60 seconds, 60-second lap, and then see if you can hang on. Give it everything you got after that. So he's like, okay. So towing the line. Here's all these 5'8", 135-pound guys, and here's Big Bernie, big old B, 6'1". I think he was down to 190. He looked like a football player lining up with these middle distance runners. So gun goes off. Man, he just takes off. He just starts leading the pack from the beginning. Tanaka! Comes through the first lap in 55 seconds. but he looked good, man. He had his old fluid form back. We're like, man, Bernie's going to kill it. He's going to run like a 155. I figured he'd hang on that second lap, run it in 60 seconds. Wrong. He got around that turn into the backstretch there, and he just died. I mean, he didn't stop, but he just jogged. I mean, it took him like 2 minutes to run the last lap. Ended up barely going under 3 minutes for the half mile. And I'm not trying to be derogatory towards females here, but that is slower than high school girls. It's just a fact, okay? And everybody's like, oh, Bernie, what happened? He's like, man, I got too much leg speed, man. I just got too much leg speed. Can't control it. I can't control that first lap. I just got too much leg speed. Coach comes over. He's like, Bernie, that was a great first lap, but what'd you do going through that fast? That wasn't the plan. You're supposed to go through in 60 seconds. Bernie's like, Coach, I just got too much leg speed, Coach. Can't control my leg speed, Coach. And Coach is like, well, Bernie, you got to control that leg speed. You know, you got too much leg speed. Okay, we got another meet next weekend. Go back to the original game plan. Control that leg speed, Bernie, you know? So, had a good week at practice. Another week goes by. We end up the next meet, same thing. 55-second first lap. Dies, comes in just under 3 minutes, you know. They're like, the next event was like a hurdle race, and the volunteers who set up the hurdles were like, come on, Bernie, will you hurry up and finish the second lap so we can set the hurdles up? The hurdlers for the next race is already ready, but we had to wait for Bernie to jog his big old calve of a backside in there. Barely finished under 3 minutes. Well, this went on all season, man. And we talked to him. We're like, Bernie, we need your points at the conference championship to win. You've got to you place sixth. You go right under 2 minutes and a half mile. You'll score some points, and we're going to win. And he's just, I got too much leg speed. All season, I got too much leg speed. So in practice, we would intentionally do intervals at a slower pace than what we needed to do them to improve our fitness level, increase our speed, have better race performance. We would intentionally run them slower. We're trying to train this guy to run slower. Because we would do our quarter mile repeats in like 55 seconds, but we were doing them in 60. Started doing them in 60. Way too slow, but it was trying to train that guy to run a 60-second lap. So a couple more meets. He keeps running 55-second first lap, blowing up. Conference meet comes around, and it's like the whole team. By this point, members of other track teams are pulling for Bernie to just go through that first lap in 60 seconds, then let go of the beast, release the beast, that too much leg speed in that second lap. Well, they toe the line, all these 5'8", 130-pound half-milers, and 6'1", 190-pound Bernie, freaking cookie crumbs still on his cheek, you know, from grabbing some snacks before the race, whatever, that was his thing. Hey, Michael Jordan would eat a 20-pack of chicken nuggets. I don't know if you knew that, before every game in the locker room, a 20-piece chicken McNugget. Bernie would eat like 4 double-stuffed Oreo cookies. So, gun goes off. He goes through the first half lap, 200 meters in 30 seconds. We're all watching our watches. I looked at my teammates. I'm like, oh my God, guys, are you seeing this? Yeah, we're seeing it. Comes through the first lap in exactly 60 seconds. He was in last place. There was 8 lanes, 2 per lane. There was about 16 runners in a race. He was trailing the back pack right at 60 seconds. I thought, man, this is it. This is going to be the race of his life. He's going to come around that next turn where he usually dies, but instead of dying because he didn't go through in 55 seconds, he's going to turn it on and he's going to blow past that lead pack. He's going to go under 2 minutes and he's going to win this race. And so he's going around that next turn, and the whole stadium gets on its feet. Bernie, because we've all been pulling for him all season, you know, like I said, even members of other teams. Comes out that last turn, dies, just died. Oh, just falls to pieces, just like this. Barely ran it in under 3 minutes, man. It was a sad day. And that was his last race ever. And the coach comes over And Bernie looks up and he starts to give his excuse about having too much leg speed, I guess is what he was going to say. And the coach says, "You don't have too much leg speed. You got too much fat on your ass is what your problem is. Leg speed's not a problem. You got too much fat on your ass. It's a good thing you're graduating. You're out of eligibility because you would be off this team otherwise." Turned around and walked off. So I guess up until that point, maybe I would have bought into the argument that there is such a thing as having too much leg speed. But man, no, he was good at his excuses, and he had convinced himself, so therefore he convinced other people. That's why a lot of times it's just hard to figure people out when if they spend a lifetime making excuses as to why they don't achieve their goals. And I'm not bashing on Bernie here, but I mean, the truth is, if less pizza, less cookies, less football games on Sundays, and more long runs. But that, wow, look what I just found. What is that? Like a rib bone off of a deer, or maybe a pelvis bone off of a deer. Saw all these deer out here, and they're still back there. They're back there watching me talk to myself. But I wonder what it is that kills these deer. Tanaka! It's not the Tanaka. We'll give a final knock here. Tanaka!